Once upon a time, in the kingdom of Zoroba, nestled between the whispering savannas and towering mountains, there lived a prince known for his wickedness. His name was Prince Olu. He was powerful, handsome, and feared by all, but his heart was as cold as the midnight sky. His cruelty knew no bounds, and he ruled the people with an iron fist. He delighted in causing pain, watched with satisfaction as others suffered, and cared for nothing but himself. Olu's arrogance and greed were legendary. He had everything a prince could want: gold, jewels, and servants, but he still craved more. His kingdom prospered in riches, but the people lived in misery under his tyrannical rule. He made sure that those who displeased him were punished severely, and no one dared to question him. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, casting a fiery glow over the kingdom, something unexpected happened. Olu sat upon his grand throne, smirking as his soldiers dragged an old woman into the court. She was thin, with hair like silver threads and eyes that gleamed with wisdom. She was a fortune teller, and she had dared to predict that one day a force more powerful than his cruelty would come to challenge him. "I see you, Prince Olu," she said, her voice a soft whisper that carried across the room. "But I also see what you do not, a love so powerful, it will change you forever." "Love?" Olu laughed, a cruel sound. "What is love but weakness? I am the master of this kingdom. No love, no person, no force can defeat me." The old woman smiled gently. "It is not your strength that will defeat you, Prince. It is the strength of a heart you have never known." Enraged by her words, Olu snapped his fingers, and the guards dragged the old woman away. But as she was led out of the room, she called over her shoulder, "Remember, Prince, there are things in this world more powerful than the blade of a sword." Weeks passed, and Olu paid little attention to the cryptic words of the old woman. But deep in the forest, under the light of the full moon, something extraordinary was happening. It was there, in the heart of the forest, that a mysterious figure was waiting: Zara, a woman whose beauty could not be matched. She had skin like smooth bronze, eyes that sparkled like the stars, and a presence that made the moon itself pale in comparison. Zara was no ordinary woman. She was a spirit of the forest, sent by the ancient gods to heal the land and break the curse of greed that had overtaken the kingdom. She was kind and pure, untouched by the darkness that consumed the prince. Yet, there was a part of her heart that carried a deep sadness, a sadness born of the fact that love had been lost to her kind long ago. One day, while walking through the forest, Olu ventured farther than he had ever dared. The trees whispered around him, and the air grew thick with an odd sense of enchantment. He heard the soft rustle of leaves and followed the sound until he came upon a clearing where Zara stood, bathed in moonlight. At first, Olu saw her only as a vision of beauty, but as his gaze lingered, something changed within him. Her eyes met his, and for the first time, Olu felt something stir in his chest, an unfamiliar warmth that sent a shiver through him. He had never been moved by beauty before, but this was something more. He found himself drawn to her, desperate to understand the emotion filling his heart. Zara, sensing the darkness in him, took a step back. "What brings a prince so wicked into my forest?" she asked, her voice soft but laced with caution. Olu, with all his arrogance, was no longer so sure of himself. "I came seeking power, but I found something I cannot explain." "What is it that you do to me, woman?" Zara looked at him with pity. "I do not do anything to you, Olu. It is the power of love, something you have long buried beneath the weight of your cruelty." "Love?" Olu spat, "It has no place in my heart. I am a prince. I command, and people bow. What is love but a weakness?" Zara's eyes softened. "Love is not a weakness, Olu. It is the most powerful force in the world. It is what brings light to the darkest places, and it is what you lack. You cannot rule a kingdom with cruelty alone. The hearts of your people are broken because you refuse to see. For the first time in his life, Olu felt something stir inside him, a sense of shame, a deep longing for something he could not grasp. He had never understood love. But now, as he stood before Zara, he realized that she was right. He was a man who had built his empire on fear and power, but in doing so, he had isolated himself from the one thing that could truly make him strong. Just as he was about to speak, the ground beneath them trembled. A thunderous roar filled the air, and the skies darkened. Olu looked up in horror as a massive, shadowy figure appeared in the distance. It was the ancient serpent, a creature of darkness that had been unleashed by the prince's greed and cruelty. It had come to claim what was rightfully its own, the soul of the wicked prince. The serpent lunged toward Olu with terrifying speed, but before it could strike, Zara stepped forward, her hands raised toward the heavens. She called upon the ancient powers of love, invoking the spirit of the moon itself. The sky exploded in a burst of light, and a radiant beam of silver light shot down, engulfing the serpent. With a deafening roar, the creature disintegrated into dust. Olu stood in stunned silence, his heart pounding in his chest. Zara turned to him, her face filled with sorrow. "You have been saved today, Prince Olu. But the battle for your soul is far from over. If you wish to live, you must change. The power you seek is not in your sword or in your wealth. It is in love, in kindness, in forgiveness." Olu's eyes burned with shame. He had been foolish. But in that moment, he knew what he had to do. With tears in his eyes, he fell to his knees before Zara. "Teach me," he whispered. "Teach me how to love." Zara smiled, her eyes shining with compassion. "The path is not easy, but it is the only way. If you truly seek redemption, you must give all that you have to heal the hearts of your people." And so, the wicked Prince Olu began his journey toward redemption. He returned to his kingdom, not as a tyrant, but as a leader with compassion and understanding. He worked to heal the wounds of his people, listening to their pain, and offering them the love he had once rejected. And in time, the kingdom of Zoroba flourished, not through fear, but through love and kindness. The prince's heart, once cold as stone, now beat with the warmth of the moon itself. He had learned that the true strength of a ruler comes not from power, but from the love he gives and receives. And as for Zara, she vanished into the moonlight, knowing her work was done. The wicked prince had fallen in love, not just with her, but with the world around him. And it was a love that would change the kingdom forever. From that day forward, Prince Olu was known as the loving king of Zoroba, and his people lived in peace, their hearts forever bound by the strength of love. In the years that followed, King Olu's transformation from the wicked prince to the loving king became a legend told in every corner of the land.